Mike Brown, the former FEMA director.
Joining us here is the former FEMA director.
History, I think, was very unkind to you, my friend. Very unkind.
Mr. Brown, thanks for being with us.
This is Michael Brown Unplugged.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Michael Brown Unplugged. Excuse my voice. I've got D.C. crud, whatever. I've been in Washington, D.C. for 4 or 5 days doing an interview with Atlantic Media. They're the publishers of the Atlantic magazine. They're doing a retrospective on Hurricane Katrina, and we spent about, 6+ hours doing interviews. And I'm recording this. It's late Tuesday night, and the flight out of Dulles today was 8 hours late. Got in obviously 8 hours late, and I noticed that I had some Wi-Fi on the flight, and I noticed that my text messages started blowing up with people telling me about the Iranians launching the missiles at some of our bases in Baghdad. And, of course, the range of text messages was everything from what's going on to what do you think will happen? Is this World War III? Blah, 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 blah. It's fascinating to me, considering the kind of the broad depth and, what's the right word? The great cross-section of friends that I have that ask me questions like this. It ranged from everything that it is World War III to it's not World War III. What's really going on? What do you hear from people that you know? And so I just wanted to address it briefly. And I want to address it briefly, one, because it's late at night. It's late. I'm tired. It's been an incredibly long day. But I do want to address it. And before I do, I want to say in Washington, D.C. parlance, in Washington, D.C. speak, this podcast could be completely OBE. OBE. That's a term that bureaucrats and everybody uses in Washington, overtaken by events. So by the time this gets uploaded and published tomorrow, it may be overtaken by events. But here's where we stand. Iranian officials say that missiles were launched at U.S. troops in Iraq. They did so in retaliation for our taking out General Qasem Soleimani. We killed him with a drone strike in Baghdad. And let's talk about that for 1 second. He should have been taken out. And he should have been taken out a long time ago. And why we haven't, I'll leave that to the intelligence folks. But here's a guy who's responsible for the maiming deaths of a lot of, probably 600 plus U.S. soldiers, and no matter how, and probably innumerable other terror attacks around the world. So his death and our opportunity to take him out was probably good. The other thing that we need to recognize about his death is this. It was the taking him out was a killing of opportunity, because he clearly had become so overconfident. And remember, he was, at least according to some reports I've read, he was responsible at least for the instigation and if not the continuation of the attack on the embassy in the Green Zone in Baghdad. So this is a bad dude that you can trace all the way back to the hostage crisis in 1979. That's how long this guy's been around. And this is the kind of guy that he is. So I applaud the administration for taking him out. Now, a Pentagon spokesman from the news reports that I see tonight has confirmed that the missiles were fired at least 2 Iraqi bases that had both American and coalition forces. Jonathan Hoffman, assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, issued a statement that says it is clear that these missiles were launched from Iran and targeted at least 2 Iraqi military bases hosting U.S. military and coalition personnel at Al-Assad and Erbil. We are working on initial battle damage assessments. Now, since that statement was issued, let's see what time was. There's not a time on this particular statement. But since then, I've also read that the damage assessments are that no loss of life, and that the missiles were off target. That's where I want to focus for a moment. If you go back to when the Iranians attacked the refineries in Saudi Arabia, the missile attacks were precise and on target. these missile attacks appear to be, no pun intended, but way off base. I think what's going on here is the mullahs felt some sort of obligation, because you have to understand there's a lot of unrest in Iran right now. Economic unrest, political unrest, the country is in turmoil. So the mullahs felt like they have to do something. They have to show some sort of response in response to our taking out of General Soleimani. Fine. If they had wanted to kill American soldiers, they have the coordinates. They know how to do it. And if they can target precisely a Saudi oil refinery such that they hit specific storage tanks, specific parts of the refinery to take out the refinery, they could have taken out these bases. They could have killed American soldiers if they wanted to. So it's my firm belief that what we're really witnessing here is saving face. The Iranians felt like they had to do something to show, for whatever portion of the population is still chanting death to America. They could have attacked Israel, but if they'd attacked Israel, our response would have been swift and severe. If they had killed American soldiers, our response would have been swift and severe. I don't think they want that. This is all politics. This is all face-saving. So even though this may be OBE by the time you hear this tomorrow, overtaken by events, and the president and the Pentagon may do something retaliatory, I don't think so. I think the smart thing to do is to recognize this for what it is. They're pissed off, rightfully so. We took out one of their soldiers, took out one of their generals. But I don't think it's going to escalate into World War III. OBE, overtaken by events. We'll wake up tomorrow and see. But right now, I don't think so. Thanks for listening. If you have any comments about my perception of what's going on with these missile strikes, comment about it. Let me know. You can find me on Twitter at Michael Brown USA. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook, Michael D. Brown. You can join the Facebook group on Facebook, the Michael Brown Unplugged portion. You can follow the show at Michael Brown Unplugged. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartSpeaker, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this right now. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Michael Brown Unplugged, The Situation with Michael Brown, is written by me and produced by Right Turn Media. My marketing and social media strategy is by Whole Crowd. Thanks again for listening to The Situation with Michael Brown.